this is one of the most exciting emails I've ever got. That is, your application for indefinite leave to remain has been granted. I was so excited. I was upstairs. I saw the email immediately. I ran downstairs, looked at my husband and told him, check your phone, check your phone. And then he said, what? Check. Then he checked and said, have you got it? And then he said, yes, and was so excited. So yeah, I can't lie, really exciting. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing about the process of applying for indefinite leave to remain in the UK. First of all, for eligibility, it depends on what route you are on. So for me, I was in the 5-year route, that is the skilled worker visa route, or if you're on a health and social care visa, then that's you'll be 5 years as well. Some people can take 3 years, that's something called, I think, a global talent visa. Some people can take 7 years, that's, for example, if you are born in the UK, if your child is born in the UK, you might have to, you can actually do 7 years, and then there's a route to get indefinite leave to remain like that. And then other people it's also 10 years, so it really depends on your own process. So in this video, I'm going to be focusing on the 5-year route because that's what I did, and the rest of the process I think is the same, to be honest, but it's just a matter of when you would apply. So for me, it's 5 years. The earliest that you can apply is 28 days before your period would have ended. So for me, in my case, it was 28 days before the 5 years. And in my particular case, it's 5 years on a tier 2 visa. Although I've been in the UK for 6 years now, more than 6 years actually. But the first part of the time we were here, we were on a student visa. So that doesn't count towards this particular route. If it was to count towards, then I'd have to wait for 10 years and say I use a 10-year route. So 5 years, 28 days before the 5 year was due was the right time to apply. But for me, actually, I applied earlier than that, and I made another video which I will link above and also below. You can go check that out, in which I explain the details of the timings and how I ended up applying earlier than actually was supposed to. So where to apply and the documents needed, you apply at the gov.uk website, and the documents needed will be depending on your own personal situation. When you go to the gov.uk website, you click apply for indefinite leave to remain. Then it's going to take you to a form that you fill in all the regular details. It's the same as the visa application. So they need your name, date of birth, your address, like where do you live, your passport number, all that regular information is the same as you have always done for any other visa application. There are just a few differences. One of the key differences is the time spent outside the UK is essential. So you shouldn't have spent more than 180 days in any 12-month period out of the UK. So there will be a part that asks you how much time have you spent out of the UK and the dates and all that. The second thing that's special is that you need a letter from your employer stating that, number one, they still need you for your job, number two, your salary that you're on, and is it appropriate for your level of job that you're on, and also they have to mention about any periods outside the UK. So were you on a paid leave, or any periods out of the UK must have been on authorized leave. And also if you're on maternity leave now, like me, I was on maternity leave, they also mention all those maternity leaves. So you have one letter in which that's all mentioned. So also on the form, they will ask you, do you have a letter? Do you have evidence from your employer? Yeah, that's another thing that's special about this, that's not in visa applications. So I would start collecting these letters as soon as possible. So for me, for example, as soon as I first started traveling out of the UK while I was still on a visa, I started collecting my letters. So the first letter I have is from 4 years ago, where I was even working in another trust, but I had heard that it would be important. So after I'd traveled, I'd gone to Uganda in my annual leave. Then when I came back, I asked the HR department to please write me a letter that shows that I have been on annual leave between these dates and these dates when I've been outside the country. And so they gave me that letter. And then now when closer to the time we were applying for ILR, I also had to get, obviously I had to get other letters from my current trust as well for whenever I've traveled outside the country. And I had those letters as well showing that I've been out of the country for these particular dates and I was on authorized leave on those dates. And so when I got my letters, there were only 2 of them actually, because I've only worked for 2 trusts. So I got my 2 letters and I sent them to Health Education England, which is now called NHS England, I think, which is the sponsor if you're a trainee. So if you're not a trainee, then your HR department will know who is supposed to be in charge of that, because probably whoever sponsored your visa also sponsors your ILR application. So then I sent them to them, and the HEE people now created a new letter that showed that over the past 5 years, I've been on authorized leave for all these dates using the letters that I gave them. But they also say that attached are the letters from the actual employers, because I guess they are not actually your actual employer. It's so weird that they are your visa sponsor, but they're not your actual employer. So anyway, they had that letter, and something that I found interesting was that even my old letters from like more than 4 years ago, I didn't get new ones because I was like, I didn't feel like the energy of going to ask them now again, and I've asked them before, but actually it was fine. No one asked for a more updated one. So it's this final letter from HE that's even the most important one, I think, that has everything that's required. Other documents required include English language. So if you're a tier 2, if you're on a health worker visa like me, that I was on, then I would have done, like you would have done your English language at some point in the past. So because of that, you don't need to show that now at ILR time. However, your dependent has to. So for my case, my partner Edward did have to do an English language exam. So they have special ones called SELT is what they stand for. I forget what they stand for. But for him, the exam he did was the PTE B1 exam, which he did. And so in the application, because we applied jointly, so there was my part with my names and then add dependent, then I added him. And so for him, they required the English language. And so he had to put like a code for like the proof of the English exam. And we've done another video together, by the way, talking about our experience in looking for that exam, booking for it, and also what it was like, how he prepared, which I'll link above so you can go check that out. The next thing is the Life in UK test. You should have done the Life in UK test at some point, and the Life in UK test I think is valid for life. I think actually, because it doesn't seem to have any like expiry date, but for us we did it in like a few months prior to ILR because we didn't know, like we just assumed that you have to do it closer, but actually it seems like you can do it at any time. I'm not so sure as far as I'm concerned anyway. If you know otherwise, please let us know in the comments below. So the Life in UK test, you should have passed it, and when you pass it they give you some numbers and some sort of code that you now put in, and then they have access and they can see that you've actually passed this. So this was required for both me and also for my husband. We have done another video actually when we did our Life in UK test. We vlogged that day and we share all our tips and how we found it, and I'll link that above and also below. The other thing they will ask you on the form is if you have accessed public funds, and I have not accessed public funds, so obviously it was easy for me. I just put no, but if you have, kindly consider using a lawyer to do your application for you because maybe your things are more complicated. The other thing is, of course, they ask you about convictions, any crimes, any penalty offenses and things like that, which again I didn't have any of those, so for me it was easy. So if you've had any of those like problems like with the law, kindly do consider using a lawyer. Don't do this on your own. But if you don't, then please, it's very straightforward and easy. I just did the application myself. So when you fill in the whole application, then there are a few things they will ask you that make sure you have this. So the mandatory documents included our passports, our current and our old passports. The next thing they wanted was proof of cohabitation. So you have to show proof of cohabitation since you are last granted leave to remain. So that means that for us, we had to show proof of cohabitation, that's that we live together in the last 1 year, because we had just applied for a visa in the previous year. So our last year 2 visa was only for 1 year, and we only had to show proof that we lived together for the 1 year. So that means you have to show, so for instance, bills and any mail that you've received at your address. So that's a proof of address. So make sure that you and your partner are both on the bills. That's something that you can do ahead of time. Make sure you're both on the bills so that you have the proof of address. If you have council tax bills, if you have like water bills, gas, electric, any of those kind of things, then be doing that in advance because that really helps. The next thing is consent letter. So you have to sign a consent letter that you authorize the Home Office to do verification checks with the other organizations, and so you have to sign that and attach that. And finally, they also need your current BRPs. So that is all that they require. And once you filled in the application, then you go to the payment part and you pay for the application. In terms of the fees, it costs £2,885 per person. So much money, and it was more painful for us because we had just missed the cutoff. Like they had just increased their fees. It was previously I think 2,300 and then now they increased to 2,885 per person. So that's how much it costs, and the standard application would you get a response within 6 months, but if you want a priority decision, then you pay £500 extra. So £500 extra means you get it within the next 5 working days. And if you want an even faster decision, then you pay £800 extra, for which you get the decision within the next working day, I believe. So that's the amount of money that you need. So this is something that you need to be planning for in advance. So for us, in our case, we did pay 2,885 times 2 and then plus also we also paid for priority for the both of us, so that is our total bill was £6,770, which is a lot of money. And some of this money we'd been saving it from like 4 years ago, honestly, because I have so many accounts for so many various different things, and you keep saving up for like different things. I'll make another video about the various accounts that I have and my advice for you if you want to have multiple accounts for multiple things, and I'll link that also above and also below. You can check that out. So that's something that's really important for you to plan, and every year they keep increasing the money. So if you're about to apply, then you know roughly how much you need. But if you're not about to apply, then probably plan for it to be more, because it's definitely going to reach like 3,000 at some point. Just make sure you have enough money for that. On top of the application fee, you also need biometrics. So just like when you do for the visa, once you click apply, pay the money, then the website will redirect you to another website that you go to, that's called Supersteria, that you go to book an appointment for your biometrics. So the biometrics appointments should be free, and you can get some free ones, but unfortunately the free ones can be like maybe 2 weeks in advance, which is not actually that bad. But the sense of urgency that we had, especially me, I just had that feeling like I need to get this done. I need to get this done and move on with my life. So we paid for an appointment that was available sooner, and that was £139 for each of us. So that's a total of £278 for our appointment for the two of us, £278. But then the funny thing is that actually we made a mistake and paid for an appointment on a Monday, and we went on a Tuesday. And yeah, when we went, obviously they said, sorry, you missed your appointment, so now we had to book again. So that meant we paid another £278 again for appointment the next day, though, because when you pay, you can get an appointment even in like 1 day. So we went and took our biometrics, and then yeah, we got a response within like maybe 2 working days, and they were saying we need more information. So it turns out that I had applied too early. I made a whole other video about this, but anyway, all in all, it took about so 6 weeks later, because I applied so early, I had to wait for the time that I should have applied, and then on the day I should have applied, I got a response. So I think it was worth it for me to do priority, because yeah, I feel like it helped me out. But you don't have to do that. That's entirely up to you. It's optional. And that's it, guys. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to know things you can do that can affect your ILR, then watch this video here and make sure you don't do any of them.